You are getting sleepy. You will like this video and subscribe to the channel. Sorry, I couldn't resist. I'm gonna be a dad soon, so I have to touch up on my corny dad jokes. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Project Respawn. This is part 3 in our series that explores what it would be like if Pokemon somehow jumped from their universe over to our own. Where would they live? How would they live? And most importantly, how would they integrate with our society? Today we're covering a rather mysterious Pokemon that has intrigued me since I first saw it appear in the anime many years ago. I'm talking about Hypno, the evolved form of Drowzee that carries a pendulum with it uses to hypnotize its victims. Before we get into it, let me just lay a foundation by defining what exactly hypnosis is. That way, we can get a better understanding of Hypno and its own form of hypnosis. Most of the time, in clinical practices, hypnosis is a lot less flashy and science fiction-like than we're used to seeing in the movies. The Mayo Clinic describes it as, quote, a changed state of awareness and increased relaxation that allows for improved focus and concentration. The clinic goes on to say that hypnosis can help you gain control over behaviors you'd like to change by making you more open to suggestion. They do note, however, that you don't actually lose control over your behavior during a hypnosis session. So in clinical settings, it's actually a pretty tame process. People just feel relaxed and focused, blocking out external noise so that they can truly listen to suggestions for behavior change. It's not like you go in for a hypnosis session and walk out acting like a chicken. That's not how it works in a professional practice. In 2022, Time magazine published an interesting article on hypnosis, citing Dr. David Spiegel, a psychiatrist at Stanford University, who described what happens inside the brain during hypnosis. Though much still remains a mystery, Spiegel explains that when someone is hypnotized, the part of the brain that helps people switch between tasks quiets down, and another area responsible for self-reflection and daydreaming seems to disconnect. Because these regions of the brain essentially go into rest mode, Spiegel says this could explain why hypnotized people aren't necessarily worried about who they are or what they're doing. Finally, Spiegel notes that some research has found that hypnosis helps calm brain regions that assist in controlling autonomic functions like heart rate, blood flow, and breathing, which could explain the deep sense of relaxation people experience under hypnosis. However, hypnotism doesn't always occur in a professional setting. Sometimes it's actually a form of entertainment. Anyone who has ever been to or heard about a hypnotist show has probably heard stories of people doing crazy things while hypnotized, like clapping like a seal or seeing something that isn't there. I tried researching this aspect of hypnotism to see if it's real, because honestly, that's something I've always wondered. Are these people who participate in hypnotist shows really hypnotized, or are they just putting on a show? Sadly, I couldn't really find anything on that I would consider to be credible, but I did read several accounts from people who were part of these shows who swear up and down that it's real. Feel free to take that with a grain of salt, but for the purpose of this video, we'll say that the form of hypnotism that Drowzee and Hypno practice is much more similar to what we'll call entertainment hypnosis as opposed to clinical hypnosis. In Season 1, Episode 27 of the Pokemon anime titled Hypno's Nap Time, we see Misty get hypnotized by a Hypno, only to run off into a nearby park and start acting like a seal. Also in the park are a bunch of children from across the city, who also fell victim to Hypno's hypnosis. They too act like different Pokemon, seemingly against their will. What's not exactly clear, however, is whether Hypno is somehow instructing them to act like Pokemon, or if they're doing it just because, I don't know, they're hypnotized. Either way, the fact that Hypno has the ability to drastically change people's behavior to the point where they think they're an entirely different species makes this Pokemon pretty dangerous. But when we take a look at some of the Pokedex entries for Drowzee and Hypno, things get even weirder, and honestly, downright terrifying. Both of these Pokemon are known for putting people to sleep and then feasting on their dreams. Like something out of a nightmare, the Ruby and Sapphire Pokedex entry for Drowzee reads, If your nose becomes itchy while you're sleeping, it's a sure sign that one of these Pokemon is standing above your pillow and trying to eat your dream through your nostrils. Ugh, I shudder just thinking about that. Like, imagine waking up in the middle of the night and just seeing a drowzee staring down at you, just inches from your face. I don't know about you, but I would freak the f*** out. Pokemon Gold version has a similar entry for Hypno, which says that when it gets hungry, it puts humans to sleep and feasts on their dreams. Again, terrifying. But since we're exploring how these Pokemon would live in the real world, let's take a minute to think about what it actually would mean to eat someone's dream. Obviously, there's no real science to this because, as far as we know, eating dreams isn't a thing. But let's see if we can apply some science to it anyway. What is a dream? Well, that's a bit of a loaded question, and there's tons of different theories out there that you can look up on your own time. But at the simplest level, a dream is heightened electrical activity in the brain while we sleep, creating vivid imagery that's sometimes based on real-world experiences, and other times completely random. When we dream, electrical impulses travel across the circuits throughout the reticular activating system, which controls REM, or rapid eye movement, the part of the sleep-wake cycle when dreams most commonly occur. In my opinion, it's these electrical impulses throughout the brain that Drowzee and Hypno would somehow consume. Now, of course, our brain is always firing off electrical impulses, whether we're asleep or not. Therefore, in theory, Drowzee and Hypno should be able to feed off of humans when they're conscious as well, but I think that they just decide to go after people who are sleeping simply because they're easier targets and can't escape. I also think that consuming these electrical impulses, aka dreams, would be the key for Drowzee's evolution into Hypno. Remember, this is its main source of food that it uses to grow stronger, the same way that Bulbasaur, for example, absorbs sunlight to grow stronger before it evolves. Therefore, the more dreams it can eat, the faster it will evolve. We'll come back to this point later on when we take a deeper dive into where Drowzee and Hypno would live. Notably, these Pokemon actually have the ability to taste dreams, and prefer to consume dreams that are generally happy and fun. Drowzee's Pokedex entry in Ultra Moon reads, "It puts its prey to sleep and devours their dreams. It seems that bad dreams taste sour, so Drowzee doesn't particularly like eating them." Likewise, Hypno also seems to prefer good dreams. Like, a lot. To the point where it literally kidnaps people. The Dex entry in Pokemon Moon reads, "As a matter of course, it makes anyone it meets fall asleep and has a taste of their dreams. Anyone having a good dream, it carries off." Okay, let's go down the rabbit hole for a minute. Carries off to where, exactly? And for what purpose? Let's try to apply this horrifying bit of information to the real world. If Hypno actually existed, I think it would have dens, possibly underground, where it would store people that it abducts and keep them in a constant state of hypnosis. This would essentially be a never-ending food supply for Hypno, as it would be able to feed off its victims' dreams anytime it wanted. However, if one of its captives starts to routinely have bad dreams, then Hypno would probably just return him or her to where they came from. At that point, they would no longer be serving a purpose and would just be taking up space in their den. Once returned to their home, the person would probably wake up and have no recollection whatsoever of where they were or how long they've been gone. In some cases, I think that people would even pass away inside of Hypno dens after being asleep too long without any food or water. After this happens, Hypno would probably dispose of the bodies somehow and begin the search for more people to abduct. Pretty creepy, right? Seriously, someone needs to make a live-action horror movie about this. Think about how much this would complicate police investigations. When people go missing, detectives would have to somehow determine whether there's a crazy serial killer on the loose, or if a Hypno is to blame for the disappearances. A lot of time would probably be spent searching through vast grasslands and savannas, as this is where wild Drowzee and Hypno would call home, according to Bulbapedia. Grassland biomes can be found on every continent except for Antarctica, and cover anywhere from 31% to 69% of Earth's land area. Savanna biomes are similar, consisting of mixed woodland-grassland ecosystems, and characterized by the trees being widely spaced so that the canopy does not close. Due to the vast size of Earth's grasslands and savannas, finding hypno dens might sometimes be quite challenging, especially when it comes to locating dens with missing people stored inside of them. On the flip side, most dens would probably be close to towns and cities, so that Hypno wouldn't have to travel far to abduct its next victim. But while wild Drowzee and Hypno would be a menace to society, I also think that some would be domesticated and prove quite useful for treating those with insomnia. We know this is the case in the Pokemon universe, based on Hypno's Pokedex entry for Ultra Moon, which states that there are some Hypnos that assist doctors with patients who can't sleep at night in hospitals. The same would be true for our universe. Hypno would commonly be found in medical clinics and hospitals around the world, as well as in various psychiatric offices for the purpose of hypnotizing people to bring about behavior change. Want to finally quit smoking? Go see someone with a trained Hypno and let its swinging pendulum work its magic. However, I do think that having a trained Hypno to assist in psychiatric care wouldn't come without risk. Remember, this is still essentially a wild animal, and at its core, it still wants to eat dreams. It would be a bit like owning a wolf. It might be trained to eat dog food and to be friendly to humans, but it would never lose its natural desire to hunt. Therefore, medical professionals who choose to work with trained Hypnos would still need to be cautious. So let's go ahead and take an in-depth look at how these Pokemon would live by considering the life of a hypothetical Drowzee named Slumber, who lives on the outskirts of Oklahoma City, not far from vast grasslands of central United States. Like hundreds of other Drowzee who live in the area, Slumber decided to make this his home due to its close proximity to the city. For the past 6 years of his life, he's been feeding off the city's residents, slipping into homes a couple times a week, and consuming dreams in the cover of darkness. It's become something of an art form. Being the highly intelligent creature that he is, Slumber has learned to detect which homes are guarded by security systems. He manages to enter into homes by any means possible, including through windows that are left unlocked, or sometimes even the chimney. Years of experience has even taught him how to identify which floorboards will creak beneath his weight just by looking at them, turning him into a true ninja of the night. It's been 3 days since Slumber last ate, and he's extremely hungry. As he makes his way into the city, a storm rolls in, but the heavy rain and the wind don't deter him. As a matter of fact, he welcomes it. He knows that the storm will give him added cover as he sneaks through the night in search of a home to break into. But while the weather is on his side tonight, that doesn't mean his task of finding food will be easy. A few months ago, Oklahoma City received additional funding to increase local PCMA, or Pokemon Control and Management Agency, presence in the area. The PCMA patrols the streets through the night in search of threatening Pokemon, including Drowzee, who make their way in from the nearby grasslands. Slumber has had to adapt to the increase in security, finding new routes to take and doing his best to avoid the PCMA at all costs. If he gets caught, he'll be relocated somewhere far away from the city, and will likely need to find a new place to call home. As the storm rages on, Slumber makes his way through dark alleyways, watching PCMA patrols pass by on nearby streets. He manages to safely reach an apartment building that he's been to many times before, and knows that the apartment on the 3rd floor of the building's east side typically keeps windows unlocked. Slumber climbs the fire escape and slips into the home. The lights are out and everybody appears to be asleep, just as he expected. Then, one by one, he begins to feast on the dreams of the family who lives there, starting with the 3 children and then moving on to the parents. Each dream that he consumed was a happy one, and therefore delicious. Unfortunately, when the family wakes the next morning, no one will have any recollection of these dreams. As a matter of fact, it will almost be like they never existed in the first place. Kinda sad when you think about it. Having gotten his fill, Slumber sneaks back down into the city streets. He's had a long night, and he's ready to go back to his den out in the grasslands for some much-needed sleep. But just as he reaches the city limits, Slumber comes face to face with a pair of bright headlights on the side of the road. It's a PCMA patrol car, and it saw him. Slumber begins to run with the vehicle hot on his trail. The problem here is that drowzee have never been known for their speed. They have short, stocky legs that make it difficult to accelerate, and beyond that, the rain has made the road slick and tough to run on. The patrol car is able to gain ground quickly, and Slumber knows that it won't be long before he ends up in a net or cage of some sort. But then, in the middle of the pursuit, Slumber suddenly feels a wave of energy course throughout his body. The dreams that he consumed just moments ago have given him the strength he needed to finally evolve into Hypno. Now with longer legs and a more muscular body, Slumber is able to pick up speed and quickly cut through the city streets. The patrol car is still faster, but Slumber has agility on his side and is able to outmaneuver the vehicle with relative ease. Thankfully, he's able to safely make it out of the city and returns to his den a few miles away. 2 years later, Slumber the Hypno is living an entirely different life. He's met a female Hypno named Rem, and the two have a litter of drowzee just 3 months old. The baby drowzee will live with them for about a year, at which point Slumber and Rem will kick them out of the den and force them to start lives of their own. For now, though, the babies are firmly under their parents' care and protection. To make room for his new family, Slumber has dug out extra space within his den. It's now roughly 10 feet long from one side to the other and about 6 feet tall, more than enough room to accommodate his mate, their offspring, and their food. Indeed, Slumber has managed to abduct an entire family, which has been sleeping soundly in his den for the past 5 days. Many Hypno are unable to do this, as hypnotizing an entire family and then leading them out of the city without getting caught is difficult to say the least. And yet, Slumber has somehow managed to do it. Now, Slumber's family is reaping the benefits. The humans they abducted are in a never-ending state of hypnosis, dreaming constantly without ever being able to wake. Slumber has essentially provided his family with an unlimited food source, as long as the humans are alive, that is, allowing them to feed whenever they want to without even leaving their den. But unbeknownst to them, the PCMA is hot on their trail. The family that Slumber abducted is the Rosen family, who is pretty well known in their neighborhood and has a lot of close contacts that immediately notified authorities when they went missing. The police have spent the last couple of days scouring the city, but without any leads, they're now considering the possibility that a Hypno was to blame and have sent the PCMA out into the grasslands to continue the search. As they look, the PCMA agents carry with them mirror shields, which are used to deflect the hypnotic attacks from wild drowzee and Hypno should they run into one. In the Pokemon anime episode that we referenced earlier, we see James from Team Rocket go toe-to-toe with Hypno. To defend himself from Hypno's hypnosis, James holds up a mirror, which seems to do a good job at deflecting the waves emanating from Hypno's swinging pendulum. In our universe, authorities would definitely take advantage of this, and use specialized mirrors for protection against drowzee and Hypno. One evening, as Slumber, Rem, and the young ones prepare to once again feast on the dreams of their captives, a cloud of gas is suddenly pumped into the den. The gas is non-lethal, but extremely irritating, forcing Slumber and his family to abandon the den within seconds. When they emerge, the PCMA is waiting for them. Rem and the young ones run off and disappear into the tall grass, while Slumber stays behind to fend off the intruders. Slumber attempts to hypnotize the agents, but the attack has no effect thanks to the mirror shields that they're equipped with. Disarmed and clearly outnumbered, Slumber realizes that he has no choice but to abandon the den and retreat. He runs off into the tall grass, eager to reunite with his family and begin the slow process of building a new home from scratch. The PCMA agents use machinery to dig into the den, where they find the Rosen family sleeping soundly. Their bodies look weak and frail from not receiving any nutrients for days, and had the PCMA taken a bit longer to find them, they likely wouldn't have made it out of that den alive. The family is rushed to a local hospital and thankfully makes a full recovery. Slumber's den gets destroyed through the use of explosives, but Slumber himself is still alive out there somewhere. The battle against drowzee and Hypno rages on. So folks, there you go. That's what I think it would be like if drowzee and Hypno existed in our world. There would be some benefits to our society, sure, but for the most part, cities and towns around the world that border grasslands and savannas would always need to be on the lookout for this mysterious and menacing Pokemon. What do you think? Would Drowzee and Hypno be as much of a threat as I'm making them out to be? Let me know in the comments below. As always, I want to thank you very much for watching this video and for checking out my channel. I'm new to YouTube and would love to get more exposure to this series, but I can't do it without your help. The best way you can support me is simply by liking this video, leaving a comment, and subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. But that's all I've got for now, folks. Thank you again so much for your support. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.